Hello, listeners. We would love to take you on a far out journey deep into space, deep into Star Trek fandom. Are you willing to come with us?
Join me and Sarah as we travel back in time to the 1960s and I experience Star Trek for the first time. It is my Star Trek deflowering.
And I've been listening to and watching Star Trek since I was just 10 years old in the 1990s, and TNG were all the ones that I watched, but I never gave TOS the proper time it deserved. So here we are. Join us as we explore the TV show that birthed an empire.
What have you been doing? Have you got to update us anymore on your Vegas trip, or do you feel like you've done it all now?
Oh my gosh, I got to tell you a little bit about this great party I went to. My friend Amy hosted a party in her penthouse suite at the
Oh,
Delano. It had a bartender making drinks, it was catered. And
wow.
Amy is somebody who has been a big supporter of John Billingsley's Feed the Hollywood Food Coalition fundraiser. And so this was a thank you party and a chance to talk about when they're going to do their third Trek Talks fundraiser. Bill and Dan from the network were the ones who helped to host it. And it was a virtual telethon, like about 10 hours of content with interviews from all different actors, and people would be watching and then they could call in or make donations online to raise money to help feed the homeless
Wow.
feed the food help feed those with the Hollywood Food Coalition. And I believe at the last Trek Talks, they raised over $200,000. So I
Whoa.
got to go to the party, and Robert Picardo from Star Trek Voyager was there. Nana Visitor from Deep Space Nine was there. Connor and Dominic from Enterprise were there. John Billingsley, of course, was there. As was I when I was leaving, Anthony Montgomery from Enterprise was showing up to make a quick hello and say hi to folks. And it was great. It was just a nice time with my friends and other friends, and just talking about how we can use our fandom to raise money and support people in all different types of ways, not just helping feed those that are hungry, but what else could we do? So that was just a really fun night. And
That
there was
sounds
also,
amazing.
after that, this rock concert. Oh my God. Okay. So, backstory, when I was in my youth, in my 20s, I used to work at a bunch of like nightclubs and bars in town. And I helped bands like sell their merch, and I promoted a couple of bands. And like, I was really into the music scene. So I used to like to go and dance at concerts and stuff. That was me in my 20s.
Mm.
And now, at 43, I'm way more reserved. I'm more of a sit back at the pub and drink a beer, play some darts kind of girl. But there was a rock concert, and the band was called the Action Figures, and it's made up of a bunch of different actors who, I believe, this was originally started by Hugh Laurie, and now it's kind of
Oh.
grown and emerged. And Greg Grunberg was playing drums, and Scott Grimes from the Orville was in the band, and they set up and they did so many good covers. I literally rushed the stage to dance with other people. There was they sang Roxanne, they sang Come Sail Away. It was so fun. Then we got in trouble. We weren't allowed to dance because we were blocking people who were sitting. So that was a total bummer. But the band was awesome. I think it was probably one of the funnest events I've ever been to of the 10 years of STLV. I hope they bring them back. If they bring them back next year, they got to set it up in a better venue where people can dance, because the band was like, we want you to dance. And then, of course, you get a couple of people who don't like that and they complain, and then it ruins it. But it's because it's hard
Oh,
to sit. It's hard to sit when it's a song that you love and you want to sing along with. And
yeah.
you're like, just kind of like clapping. And you're just like, I've never felt like that need to like want to dance more than I did there. Of course, I had a couple of drinks too, so you get a little bit more loosey goosey, but
But especially
it
if
was
the band
awesome.
wanted you to dance as well.
Yeah, I mean, who wouldn't want to feel like a rock star when you're in, actors want to feel like rock stars too. So
I love that.
it was so fun.
Yeah, that
Yeah,
sounds awesome.
yeah.
And that sounds amazing. How many fundraisers have they had of that one that you were just talking about?
They've had two Trek Talks officially with that Bill
Mm,
and Dan have been involved in, but I'm sure there's been other like philanthropy type of ventures taken on by people. There's always something going on with Trek activism and stuff. But yeah, Trek Talks
very
3 will be,
Star Trek.
yeah, January is when they're hoping to do it if all goes well with the strike and they can, talk Trek and whatnot. So,
That's what Star Trek's all about, isn't it?
mm-hmm,
I love
mm-hmm.
it.
Yeah.
I saw Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, which
Ooh.
was okay. It was good. I really like Seth Rogen. So I was very excited to see it. I used to watch Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles a lot when I was younger. Um, and yeah, we were talking about the bear in the last episode, and Sydney from The Bear plays April, and I love the character April in Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Yeah, she was awesome. It was
Oh, there you
good.
go. That's fun.
It was after I watched it straight after my fourth showing of Barbie. So
Holy
I've seen
shit.
I've seen Barbie 4 times now, and I'm going to see it again and again. I'll see it every week. It's cheaper than
Oh
therapy.
God.
I
Well,
love
I'm
it.
glad you love it because yeah, I don't think I'll ever watch it again. It was
You
fine.
were not a fan, were
I
you?
was not a fan. I just I liked it. It was fine, but it's not one that I would rewatch all like over and over.
It's really dividing some people. Some people really, really love it. Some people don't like it. For a cinema goer, someone who goes to the cinema every week, I really love being in the cinema at the moment, and I'm so happy what it's done for cinemas after
Yeah.
COVID.
Oh, there's
I think it's great.
nothing wrong with the success it's having. I'm very happy for the success for everybody in it. Like I said, I liked it.
Mm,
It was a good movie. It was fun, but I just now I've seen it. Now I don't need to see it again.
yeah, totally. Well, I'll watch my fifth showing in England.
Please. Absolutely. Maybe it'll be even better in Britain. Awesome.
Priority 1 message from Starfleet coming in on secured channel.
All right. Well, before we get diving into these terrible fucking episodes, let's give a little shout out to our sponsors, Fan Sets. Lou and John, thank you for being so much fun and being such great people to work with at the Star Trek Las Vegas. You guys are always making such cool pins. Some of the new ones I've seen on their website include a really great commemorative original series acrylic display set with all the different characters. And then there's some Chakotay and Archer with glitter. They're so cute.
That sounds amazing. So check out fansets.com and do some shopping. They have hundreds of Star Trek pins to choose from. Load up your cart, use the special discount code TrekGeeks in all caps, no spaces, to get 10% off your order. And if you're in the US and you spend over $30, your shipping is free. So that's incredible.
That's so generous. Fanset. Our pins have character.
They definitely do. Are you ready for Sophie's History Hour?
I was born ready.
I hope you were sighing about the episodes and not Sophie's History Hour. I mean, they're both.
I love Sophie's History Hour.
They're all quite depressing, to be honest.
Yeah, it's true.
This is Sophie's History Hour, where we try to understand the zeitgeist of the time that Star Trek was on, which I'm very interested in. It varied by state. Utah deemed women fit for jury duty way back in 1879, but the main reason women were kept out of jury pools was that they were considered the center of the home, which was their primary responsibility as caregivers. They were also thought to be too fragile to hear grisly details of crimes and too sympathetic by nature to be able to remain objective about those accused of offenses. In 1961, the Supreme Court upheld a Florida law that exempted women from serving on juries. It wasn't until 1973 that women could serve on juries in all 50 states. Again, I'm saying about what's happening in the 1960s, but we're kind of moving forward in the 1970s. So you can kind of understand the misogyny in Star Trek in the 1960s.
Okay, this explains so much. They've been keeping women out of juicy juries so long that now it exploded into the obsession of true crime.
Yeah, it's like, oh, we're too fragile, too grisly crimes, like nothing grisly happens to us.
Yeah, tell that to the guys I see screaming when they see a fucking spider.
I know. Oh, well, there you go.
I studied criminal justice. I studied the psychology and sociology of serial killers. I am fascinated by the topic. It does not gross me out. I studied forensics. It is my bread and butter. I love it. It does not, oh,
So this one must make you really angry. Is this the one that's made you the most angry?
Well, no, it hasn't. I mean, I'd rather be able to have a bank and a choice over my body, but
I know.
But no, but it still is. It's ridiculous. It's silly. It's stupid. And you see it's still an issue this day and age. Women working in that world of not necessarily maybe courtrooms and jury duty, but women in policing, women in corrections. It's a boys' club, and it's still a boys' club. And I think when you're putting yourself on the line and putting yourself in danger, if you also are worried about whether your coworker is going to sexually assault you or not support you, is stupid and dumb.
Well, I mean, I suppose that's a very depressing but good trail into The Enemy Within, the episode that one of the episodes that we're gonna be talking about.
Yeah, hold on to your seats, folks. I think this episode is going to rile up a lot of women, and I think it's going to educate a couple of male listeners, although I have a feeling they probably are, we got good listeners, and I think they're all going to know a little bit about this stuff. They're going to know, oh no, they're talking about Bud's women, get ready.
I'm really interested to see if anyone really enjoys the episode Within and Mud's Women. So they're the two.
I was going to say, what we can do is when we get things going on our new Twitter account or our X, whatever the hell it's fucking called this week, we can put polls out there and ask people questions and get a ranking and see what people thought about certain episodes and do like a fun.
Yeah, give us your misogyny rating. I love that. So we are talking about The Enemy Within and Mud's Women in this episode. Yeah. So do you want to give us a synopsis of The Enemy Within?
I would love to. So we start on a planet with a badass looking alien dog, and a crewman is already injured. He beams back up covered in like a yellow dust like pollen, which made me want to sneeze. And the results of that are double trouble. So we get two Kirks. The second one is filling up the machinery and is clearly a troublemaker with a strong need for brandy. Really? That's your go-to drink? Anyway, it takes 2 seconds for shit to start getting confusing. McCoy is experiencing one version while Spock is confronting the good Kirk who knows nothing about this other guy who's drinking. Now we have duplicate doggies. Oh, no, wait. They're not duplicates. They're opposite doggies. They just need a little treat training, and that should fix up the bad one. Okay, look. It's the victimization of a female character again by a Kirk with eyeliner. She's too beautiful. She's too much woman. Oh, so it's her fault that you're acting this way? The bad Kirk assaults and tosses around Janice and then beats the shit out of a passerby trying to help. Okay, this is a problem. You do not interrogate a sexual assault victim with the perpetrator in the room. And then she says things like, I don't want to get you in trouble. Stop giving fucking excuses, Janice, and stand up for yourself. This really pissed me off. Evil Kirk realizes the gig is up. He flips out and tries to cover the scratches on his face. Meanwhile, the crew on the planet are freezing to death slowly, but you never really do see their breath. So that was a continuity. That was a little error with their filming. And then it gets a little bit boring because it's just kind of like Kirk chasing around Kirk and trying to figure out how to fix it and what's going on. They figure out the issue, beam the two doggies into one, and then they killed the dog. I hate it when the dog dies on a show. But
And
now the good Kirk is kind of fading away. The crew is dying. They're getting a little bit freaky. They don't want to start risking doing all these beamings. And then they just kind of figured it out. I wasn't paying attention at this point. I was so frustrated. And then they have one normal Kirk again, and Janice tries to what? Apologize? For fuck's sakes.
Spock went down in my estimation from the last comment. Yeah, but I loved that dog. I loved that dog in that outfit. I loved it so much. And I was
That's
like,
all I want to talk about is the dog.
I know. Me too. I just absolutely loved it. It was so cute. I had to take a picture.
Does it have a name? Does it have a t-shirt? Where can I get the merch for the dog with the two little antennae and the weird mole rat tail? Love them.
It was my a huge biggest my biggest so far of watching Star Trek, but also a very big dislike that why did he have to die? It was sad.
I know. Okay.
Didn't like
so
it.
I think we have a lot of similar dislikes in this episode, and I think the biggest one is the attempted sexual assault, whatever you want to call it. Yeoman Rand, Kirk, what do you have to say?
I found it incredibly uncomfortable to watch, but what I found more uncomfortable is when the three men are asking her about the incident. So you watch that sexual assault scene, and I really admire William Shatner's acting in this, but it was really, really uncomfortable. And then for that questioning to be after just made it a really uncomfortable just period of the episode. I just didn't enjoy it at all. I found it very interesting how they shot it. Why didn't we get shots of her emotions a bit more and how she was feeling? She was sitting down so low, and the shots were just on the three male characters, and literally no sympathy for her at all. And then it was just kind of okay, then bye. I just found it really, really uncomfortable. Didn't enjoy it at all.
Everything in that scene and that little storyline was painful to watch, and it was so badly written, and it was so badly it was such a sign of the times. I mean, I've watched enough Mad Men and I've heard enough horror stories that it was very much a common thing of, well, do you want to lose your job? So don't say anything about the boss hitting on you, and don't say anything, the secretary is going to be you're here to look pretty, and you're here to, it's gross, and it's still a thing. It's people using their power and rank over others. And then for the three of them to confront her, including the person that she's accusing, you would never do that in the real world. If I accuse somebody of assault or sexual assault, I would hope to hell I'm not giving my statement with them looming over me, putting the fear of God into me. It was just, the whole thing was terrible.
It was just as uncomfortable as the scene. It was just not great at all.
And there's a little bit of trivia with this scene that definitely is alarm bells. I found this on Internet Movie Database, and according to Grace Lee Whitney, who played Yeoman Rand, while shooting the scene, when a distraught, tearful Janice Rand accuses Captain Kirk of trying to rape her, William Shatner slapped her across the face to get her to register the proper emotion. As they shot the attempted rape scene days earlier, Whitney couldn't get into the same emotion successfully, and it was Shatner's solution to the problem.
Well, we're going to add more when we talk about the misogyny rating, but how did you feel about this episode? Because it felt really different to me, and I do have some comments on it, but did you feel like it was different, or what do you think?
I did. And I mean, as much as the storyline of Kirk and Yeoman Rand bothered me and pissed me off, there was elements to this episode I really liked. Yes. I just thought it was a really well shot episode. The moment that the bad Kirk beams aboard, and the lighting, and you can see that he's got this kind of look to him where he's just he's a bad, you can tell from the lighting and the acting it's a bad guy, and it created a mood.
Yeah, I really recognized the use of music in this episode. I thought that was very different too. And I thought the same. The shots of the actors, there was a lot of close-ups. Again, don't really like that it was the close-ups of the three men. Like, I
Yeah.
don't care how they felt about it. But yeah, and I really, really enjoyed the development of some of the characters, like when Spock goes and checks in on Kirk. And actually, some parts of it were quite humorous. Other parts are totally gross, but some of it was kind of humorous. I thought it was good.
I noticed that too, especially with Sulu. I have always been a fan of George Takei, and I've always been aware of who the character of Sulu was, but having not watched a lot of the episodes, I've never really gotten to appreciate how funny he is. And when he's down on that planet freezing, he provides just some of the little bit of comic relief that this episode needed. So it made it for a good balance. And it's been really fun getting to really love that character now more than I ever had before.
But wow, like William Shatner's acting in this episode was good, because I always viewed it as, I've never watched Star Trek before the 60s one. I always viewed it as he was a bit of a joke actor, and I'm really sorry, I really don't want to offend anyone, but he just looks like he's having a good time. He's always laughing.
Oh yeah, it's always been the joke, is that he's an over actor, you know.
It's like, I'm a huge fan of Jerry Seinfeld, but Jerry Seinfeld isn't a great actor in Seinfeld. And it was kind of similar. Like, I know William Shatner's way loads better than Jerry, but I really, really loved his acting in this. It highlighted a lot of his good acting skills. Yeah.
Totally. I think the other thing that's really cool about this episode is there's the karate chop that didn't happen, because you got to see the very first Vulcan nerve pinch when Leonard Nimoy's character of Spock does the whole like thing on the back of his neck. It was because they were supposed to do a karate chop to subdue Captain Kirk, and he thought it was uncharacteristically violent for a peace-loving species like the Vulcans. So he came up with the nerve pinch, which is like the most iconic thing outside of the live long and prosper hand.
Oh, that's awesome. I love that. Was there anything else that you all need to add, or anything else that you thought of?
Nope, I think that covers pretty much the big ones for us. I think we should do some ratings here. I'd love for you to start us off. Let's both do our misogyny. What did you give it?
Well, I actually don't know why I wrote down 9 out of 10, because I would have put 10 out of 10. It's definitely a 10 out of 10 for me. But I don't even know if this could be classified as misogyny. It's literally more like sexual assault. Yeah. It was extremely uncomfortable to watch. I found that it actually haunted me for a few days after the episode. Also, just leave the cute dog alone. Just do not touch him. I was very confused and upset by Spock's line at the end, implying the qualities of bad Kirk. But what did you think about? Yes. What did you think about that last line? Am I interpreting it wrong?
No, that's why I gave this a 10 out of 10.
Right.
And there's two separate things. Yes, you have an attempted sexual assault, which is its own thing. But the misogyny is the men circling her and questioning her. And the fact that the writers wrote Yeoman Rand to be apologetic and submissive, making comments as though I wouldn't even have said anything if the other person hadn't walked in. Like I wasn't going to say anything. It's like, it's okay. Like, he's my boss. I didn't want to get in trouble. And then at the end, how she just kind of smiled and forgave it all as if nothing happened. And then, Spock implying that she was attracted to that kind of violent pervert really pissed me off. So.
Oh, yeah. I was like, wait, am I understanding this correctly? Like, this is awful. This has got a lot of bad stuff in this episode. But I actually gave the episode an 8 out of 10, because although I found some of this episode really, really uncomfortable, I really appreciated the acting in this. I felt like it was the first episode that I understood the joy of Star Trek, especially from William Shatner. I felt really captivated by the music, the shots, the acting, but the bad Kirk scenes were just really, really dodgy. They didn't sit well with me. But did it make it even better? Who knows? I don't know.
I gave it a 5 out of 10 because the way I look at it is that the overall storyline and the lighting and the acting is a 5 out of 5, and the whole yeoman thing is a 0 out of 5. So it gave it a 5 out of 10. I was half of it I loved and half of it I really hated. And they killed the dog. Like, don't kill the dog.
Yeah, maybe my rating
Ooh.
was maybe it was a bit too high, but I really, I don't know. It's
I
like
think it's a
Marmite.
fair rating. I think you gave it a fair rating because you're experiencing Star Trek. And if this is what
Yeah,
makes you really appreciate the episode and appreciate the actor, it's going to fuel you to keep watching.
yeah.
So that deserves a good score, in my opinion.
Yeah, it took me by surprise, and I definitely kept watching it. But yeah, I was haunted by it for a couple of days afterwards. But the other dodgy one that we're talking about in this episode is Mud's Women or Mud's Women. Yeah, I oh
All
gosh,
right.
this is a bad episode for the podcast because these two episodes really
Yeah,
suck. I'm going to give you a synopsis of Mud's Women. So
please.
after stopping a vessel in space, Kirk and the crew find a very odd captain with a very strange cargo. The captain of the vessel is Harcourt Fenton Mudd, known as Harry to his friends, and the cargo are three lovely women he is transporting as brides for the lonely men on distant planets. Kirk has a major problem. While trying to rescue Mudd and his women from the ship, the Enterprise's lithium crystals used to power the engines were destroyed. They travel to a nearby mining colony where Mudd sets out to arrange marriages for the women, interfering with Kirk's plan to buy the crystals. All the time, the ship's orbit is deteriorating and risks burning up in the atmosphere. So, yeah, I took this amazing synopsis from Internet Movie Database because I'm not as good at writing synopsis as you are, Sarah.
And it's another banger from Gary KMCD on Internet Movie Database. He's got like the best synopses, right?
Okay, so I really liked the message of confidence and perfection in this episode. Did that come across to you? What do you think?
Not really. I mean, I get that they were trying at the end to be like making up for the fact that this is such a tacky episode, but it didn't really work for me.
I think it had some good messages and some very, very bad ones, but I really liked Kirk's line. Either you believe in yourself or you don't. Confidence comes from within. Maybe I'm just trying to grasp at this like Star Trek feeling that everyone sort of talks about. Maybe I'm grasping a bit too much, but I do believe that you should love yourself and believe in yourself from within. It
Absolutely.
comes from you first. Yeah. So I like that.
Absolutely. And how could you not feel good about yourself when you have such sparkly, beautiful gowns on? I mean, as cheesy as it is, and as painful as this episode is, when those three women beam
Oh,
aboard and they're posed like they're showing off furniture on a game show from the 60s, it's great. I mean,
it's
it's the
beautiful.
60s in a nutshell, and I really do appreciate the outfits, the hair, the makeup. Like, they look great.
I know, I loved it. That was one of my big loves from this episode, is just the way they looked, the way that they sparkled, the way that the crystals sparkled. I loved it.
Now, another thing that stood out for me as a like was outside of the makeup and the women was I liked Mud. I thought he was a good character. It's like a
Interesting.
pirate type bad character, a scoundrel, a deviant, adds a little bit of humor. I can only imagine that space would be full of bad guys like this looking to make money in any way possible. What did you think?
Yeah, I thought he was a very interesting character. When he was first beamed up, I was like, whoa, who is this? I loved it.
Yeah, you know what I think you'd really appreciate? Here's a little fun fact. The
Mm.
character of Mud reappears in Star Trek Discovery, and he is played
Oh.
by Rainn Wilson.
Whoa! I saw that Rainn Wilson was in one episode of Star Trek, and I can't believe that that's him. That's amazing.
Yeah.
What do you think of the character as you've seen it? I haven't seen it. What do you
I
think?
you know what? You put me on the spot. I can't really remember this plot line from Discovery because it's been so long since I've watched it,
Mm.
but I want to go back and watch it again because um I just I like I don't know what it is about it, but characters like that that are just so disgustingly like just I don't know. You can find humor in them because they're a little bit more over the top. I
Yeah.
think a scoundrel is the best way to describe it. Like it's the he's not even an anti-hero. He's just a kind of a piece of shit. And there's just so many pieces of shit in the world that it's just a realistic kind of person you come across. Like I always find that Star Trek oftentimes has so many instances of people being the best versions of themselves, and it's like that's great, and we all want to be better people, but there's always going to be assholes and you got to
Yeah.
have them in different characters sometimes, and they add a little bit of fun to it because you get to watch those people who try to be really good try to interact with people like that.
Yeah, that's so true, actually. And I'm grasping at this like Star Trek happiness. And yeah, there is always people like that. Did Rain have the hat, the outfits, or do you not
I think
remember?
so,
Oh
yeah,
my
not
gosh,
the
that's awesome.
mustache. I don't think, but yeah, I'm
I
gonna go
loved
back and
it.
watch those again. Yeah.
I really liked the character of Eve. What did you think about her? But I have no idea why she settled for that man at the end.
No, I
Sorry,
know.
spoiler.
Yeah,
All right.
no, yeah, she was great. Like, they were all the characters were fine. It's just
Mm.
the story in general was pretty cheesy. What didn't you like? Because I know there's a couple of lines in this one that are pretty bad. Uh,
Yeah, so I disliked a lot about this episode. The quote, men will be men no matter where they are, pretty much summed up this episode, I think. I thought that was a gross line. I didn't
yeah.
like it. Yeah. What did you think?
Oh yeah, there was tons of like one-liners that were really shitty. Like even when she was like, "Is this the kind of wife you want? Not someone
Oh,
to help you, not someone to cook and sew and cry, but you want someone who's vain." Like just the fact that you're throwing out such stereotypical like roles, it's just like,
yeah.
ugh,
I'm just, yeah, that's what I'm getting a bit sick of. Like, I'm still enjoying watching Star Trek, but I'm getting kind of sick of the gender
I know.
stereotyping. I'm getting a bit bored of the beauty standard storyline. Like, this is like the
Hmm.
third episode where a woman's just got older, and that's like
And ugly.
terrible.
Yeah.
Yeah, and ugly,
Yeah.
and
Homely, as he said.
yeah,
What happened to
yeah.
your looks? You got all homely and like gets aggressive, like fuck off.
Why why was he annoyed that she was cooking as well? I was
I
like,
don't know. Like what you want her to cook and do everything for you, but at the same time you don't want her to, and because I don't know.
oh,
I just it did not make any fucking sense. And actually a little bit of fun trivia about this episode. The NBC program manager, Jerry Stanley, recalled that one of the problems we had was in trying to talk Gene Roddenberry out of some of his sexual fantasies that would come to life in the scripts. Some of the scenes
oh,
he would describe were totally unacceptable. And Shatner noted that NBC allowed Mudd's Women to be produced is still a minor miracle. So
oh.
thanks, Internet Movie Database, for being a source of good trivia.
We could have got that. So we could have got worse episodes than that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Oh no!
I also
What?
read on there that the woman who played Magda, Susan Denberg, had appeared in this episode 2 months after revealing herself in Miss August 1966 centerfold in Playboy.
Oh la la! I love it.
Oh.
What did you dislike about this episode, other than most of it?
I think the whole thing in general was just kind of like, ugh. Like, I get what they
Mm,
were trying to do. There's elements that I find were good. Like, I, human trafficking is a real thing. And
mm.
I think they did touch on it a little bit in the sense that the things that I kind of liked were when the one woman, I think it was Eve, stood up and said, "We're not just some harem girls. Like we come from a place where there's no men. Like we want to get married just as like." So they made a point of saying like we're not against our will having this happen. And then later on, you also see that they're kind of plotting with
Yeah.
Mudd to be bad and to make money. And so there was a little bit of it that they added to it, which kind of made at least those characters a bit more wholesome. It was everything that happened once they got to the planet that I really didn't like. That just like the miners
Yeah.
in general, the cheesy party of like, I'm gonna dance with your woman now and we're gonna have a fight. And it was all so gross. Like you just were like, what's next? Like they're gonna spike someone's drink and like so I felt like
Mm.
it wasn't really that horrible. But it was yeah, it was just kind of like whatever.
You
What
almost
did you give for a rating for it? What was your
well, I
misogyny
was
rating?
I was just about to say that your misogyny rating is hilarious. You say yours first.
I gave it an 11 out of 10.
Yeah.
Just because of that quote about how Gene Roddenberry wanted to write out all of his sexual fantasies in the script. To me, that is like, well, this is what this is. It's every man's fantasy to, be able to just purchase or be given this ideal, beautiful woman. And so this is just ripe with misogyny, but it doesn't mean it wasn't still a decent story. Like the episode, I gave the episode a 6. So, I mean, it was fine. I'd watch it again, but.
Yeah, we did the same episode rating, but yeah, I gave it a 10 out of 10.
Yeah.
And I love that you gave it 11 out of 10.
Yeah, it's pretty bad.
I should have given it even more.
Hey, and we're only on season 1. So, I mean, there could come a time where I'm going to give something a 20 out of 10. We're just going to have to go with it. Or we're going to have to, at the end of the season, we'll collect all of our numbers and then let's have a discussion. And we'll do a special episode at the end of season 1 to see if we want to change some of our rankings because we will have seen more episodes.
I know, that's what I'm thinking. I'm kind of weighing it up. I'm like, well, was this worse than this? I'm kind of thinking about it too much, I think. What have you, is there any other points that you want to make about the episode, or are you ready to go into your hour? I'm interested in how you think this would have been done differently, or your points on this.
Yeah, I say it's time we go towards the Sarah hour. So the things that stood out for me with The Enemy Within, I was, in two ways, I was trying to reimagine this episode if it had happened to Captain Picard. I think it's safe to say that Captain Picard is my favorite captain. And I appreciate Cisco and Janeway, don't get me wrong, and I'm really enjoying Pike, but I grew up with Picard. I know that character better than I know other ones, so I feel like I can speak to it. And if I would have loved to have seen this happen to him, I would love to have seen Captain Picard get split into two and have the good cop, bad cop, because he was such a reserved, French British captain that was always well behaved for the most part. Like he was so different from Kirk. So I think to have seen him out of control would have been really good. But it did also make me think of a couple other transporter accidents that did happen. On The Next Generation, there's actually 2 Rikers. We find out in an episode that a transporter malfunction that created a duplicate happened years previous, and he'd been trapped basically on this planet by himself. So they find him, and so you have 2 Rikers, but one of them is still like, I still thought that I was working on this ship. I thought I was still in love with this woman. And meanwhile, the real Riker was like, oh yeah, man, like lots has happened since then. So, he changes his name from Will to Thomas and goes off and lives his life separately, but he is the identical carbon copy. It's just that he had a different life experience because he wasn't rescued. He was stayed on the planet, whereas the beamed up version went on to live his life. Also, it's good. Eh?
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah.
And also there was a transporter malfunction in an episode of Voyager, a very controversial episode that gets a lot of jokes and memes and flack thrown at it, where there's a character called Tuvok, who's a Vulcan like Spock, and then you have a character called Neelix, who was an alien that kind of was on the ship as like a cook and kind of helped them figure out, who's who in that neck of the woods. And a transporter malfunction merged them into one person, a new, unique individual that they named Tuvix, like a combination of the 2 names. And Tuvix was a unique person who had hopes and dreams and a life that they wanted to live, but he was created out of these 2 people that obviously don't exist anymore, that essentially they died, and the captain had to make the tough decision about whether or not to split Tuvix apart back into Tuvok and Neelix, or whether she should allow them to live. And so it's a big ethics on a right to live, and it was like the episode. So yeah, that one made me think of this too, about transporter malfunctions and the trouble it can cause.
Like there's a lot more ethics in the newer ones.
There can be. I think it's a little bit more subtle in the original series and a bit more cheesy, right? Mudd's Women reminded me a lot of an episode of The Next Generation called The Perfect Mate. And in this episode, they have a cargo on the ship that accidentally gets bumped or whatever, and it opens up, and it's this beautiful woman played by, I'm not going to remember her name as an actress, but she was Jean Grey in the X-Men films.
Oh,
Famke
cool.
Jensen. Famke Jensen. And her character was a woman who was raised to be a gift to a different planet ambassador as a a peace offering or whatever. And she was raised from a little girl knowing that you are going to be his wife and you are going to learn everything about everything so that you can always carry a good conversation, and you will imprint on him when you meet him so that you can mold and become exactly what he wants you to be as the perfect little submissive wife. So that's the whole ethics of that episode, is the Captain Picard trying to decide if it's really appropriate for them to be giving her over like slavery, like a sex slave or whatever you want to call it. And so that definitely made me think of, I wonder if there was some inspiration of Mud's Women for that episode.
Yeah, that does sound really interesting. And I love that you told me that Rainn Wilson plays him.
Right?
I love that. Do you remember, because you said that you haven't watched it in a while, you can't really remember. You'll have to come back and tell me, or maybe I should watch it.
Yeah, I think
tell
if you
me
just
what
go to
happens in it.
Internet Movie Database, it'll tell you which episodes he was in. It'll help, because I can't remember which season. I think it was season 2. I think he's in a couple episodes, to be honest, but I can't remember.
I'm a huge fan of The Office, but Dwight isn't actually one of my favorite characters. Is he one of your favorite characters?
Yeah. Yeah. He's my second favorite character after Michael Scott.
Michael Scott and Kevin for me. There you go. We pushed through those two horrible episodes.
It wasn't actually. How horrible it could have been if you gave one of them an 8 out of 10.
I don't know why. I'm kind of angry at myself. I'm like, Sophie, this is awful. Why do you like this so much? But I'm seeing the Star Trek vibes. Yeah, I'm loving it.
Excellent. And that's it. That's episode 3 of Deflowered. Tune in next time when we break down another 2 episodes. What are little girls made of? Oh God. Ugh. And Miri. So already I'm just like, red flag. Here we go.
I know. I don't know what I want to know. Okay. So if you enjoyed this podcast and you would like to hear more or learn ways about how to support the Trek Geeks podcast network, check them out on Twitter at Trek Geeks or at their website, trekgeeks.com. I keep saying Twitter, but it's X now.
I know.
It'll
probably get changed again. Who knows?
Just try and find us. You'll find us. So there you will find tons of information about other podcasts on the network or how you can become a Patreon subscriber.
Yes. Thanks, Patreon subscribers. We so appreciate you. And you get perks. You get all kinds of unedited copies of this. So God bless you for sticking with it, really. There's also our website where you can leave us a voicemail and reach out to us. And we'd love for you to do that too via X at TG_Deflowered. And until next time, thanks to everybody who helped make this possible. 5-year mission. You're the best. We love your music. Thank you, fan sets. And thanks for everyone for being totally pervy and horny and listening and watching as Sophie gets deflowered.
Thank you so much.
All right, that's it for today. We'll talk to you next time.
Bye.